Thank you for watching this edition of the Unpopular Review. If you like what you're watching, please subscribe to us on our social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at UPRYEPILW. Also, while you're at it, subscribe to our friends at Yep I Like Wrestling on the same social medias at YEPILW. Yep.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Unpopular Reviews. I am the Mark, Victor Rodriguez, and today I am joined by none other than the executive consultant. Hello? Ed? Oh, okay.
I'm right here, bro. I'm right
there
here.
You go. And there you go. The executive consultant.
Notice the camera is on me, right? And I'm able to speak. Where the camera was on you at the beginning of the show for about 29 minutes. And you didn't say anything much like a Quentin Tarantino movie. But I did hear you mention See Disappear. What is going on, Chrissy? How you doing? I know y'all missed me. I was not here on Thursday for the Beetlejuice review, which we're going to talk about a little later.
Yeah, you didn't miss much on
I did miss a lot. I
Beetlejuice got a thumbs down, so no, you did not. That movie.
You gave it the big thumbs down, but spoiler alert, and I'll bring you into this too. Spoiler alert, gave it a thumbs up. That's right.
You older.
Beetlejuice. And I do not look like Beetlejuice Willie, and I'll deal with you later. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unpopular Reviews, and I am the executive consultant joined today by the Mark See Disappear, as well as the original director of Spider-Man from 2002. Apparently, he's got shorter and blacker, but what's going on with you? Over there. Evil Dead extraordinaire. I think he's
stupid.
Oh, hey, sorry. Hey, welcome.
Wow. Your reaction time is much like the Amazing Spider-Man. All right, so what's going on? We're here to review Spider-Man Homecoming, the first Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where they were loaned and borrowed. Yes, we see it in the background. You're watching another movie, as always. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you for watching us. Follow us at UPRYEPILW at Twitter, Instagram, as well as Facebook, and more importantly, YouTube. Vic, you are cheesing hard as hell. Somebody must have been a fan of this movie.
I really was a fan of this movie. And here's the thing, and I'm just going to start with this.
It's always a thing.
One thing that everybody needs to understand. This is Marvel's iteration of Spider-Man. This is not the whole thing with the comics. This is not the whole thing with Uncle Ben and all of that. This is Spider-Man as a teenager. This is their version of Spider-Man. So for all of the trolls that are looking for wrestler Spider-Man and that storyline, no, it's not here.
Did anybody miss Uncle Ben in this? Was it like
Uncle Ben is Iron Man?
To answer Chris.
James.
In the MCU, Uncle Ben is Iron Man, but I'm not going to say any more about that. So let's continue.
But I mean, like the whole trope of the death, Uncle Ben's death, and was that missed by me? It wasn't missed by me.
No, we didn't need to see it anymore. We didn't need to see it. We didn't need to hear it anymore. Let's get straight to the action. That's what Spider-Man Homecoming did. He was already introduced in Captain America Civil War. So let's get straight to the nitty-gritty. And when we go straight to the nitty-gritty and we talk synopsis, there's only one man we can talk to, and that's Mr. Raimi down there. So let's go ahead and turn it over.
It's pronounced Raimi. Show some respect.
I say Raimi because it reminds me like his name.
All right, so today we're going to do Spider-Man Homecoming. The movie actually has two openings. The cold open of the movie actually starts right after the battle in New York in 2012, after the Avengers beat the Chitauri army, okay? And right then, we don't have his name as the Vulture, but the Vulture and his construction crew, they're cleaning up the aftermath, and they got that contract, and they're interrupted by the CIA, by the FBI, by SHIELD. We don't know who, but it's a government agency. And they tell them that they no longer have the contract, that it's been taken over by someone else. We later find out that that's Tony Stark, and that they will be responsible for the cleanup and the alien tech salvage and whatnot, okay? The movie proper, though, it starts right after the events of Civil War, just like Black Panther. And Peter Parker's actually on his way home with Tony Stark, and he's still riding high off that adrenaline. and we see that he wants to know what's next, what's the new mission, when do you need me? I can be there. And basically Tony Stark says, hey, you know what, why don't you try and remain the neighborhood spider? We have this. If we need you, you can go through Happy Hogan, and he'll be the go-between, and he'll tell you, and he'll contact you when we need you. But for Peter, coming off of that battle, it's kind of hard, and he finds it difficult to sink back into that teenage average life. And that's pretty much where the movie goes. But he's still trying to prove himself, and you see him trying to clean up his neighborhood. And that's when eventually he runs afoul of the Sinister Six, who are unnamed as a team itself, but individually. And their plan, which we see was started at the beginning of the movie, the cold open. And so essentially, Peter takes it upon himself to fight them whenever he runs into them, not really knowing the plan and kind of finding himself out of his depth. And that ends up causing him to gain the attention of Tony Stark, who really is disappointed with him and really chides him and essentially takes away his suit. And so Peter, and the crux of the movie is Peter has to determine, is he just a friendly neighborhood spider? Is he meant for more? Is he Spider-Man without the suit? And that's Spider-Man Homecoming.
All right. But sorry about that. But I wanted to ask if anyone, like besides Uncle Ben, did you feel like the other stuff that they changed, did you feel like that helped the movie or hindered the movie? Like as far as
Yes, Aunt May is so hot.
Oh, okay. So you're for the de-aging?
Yes, I am definitely loving how hot Aunt May is and like that whole situation.
I think she did a good job.
I think that the only mention they had to Uncle Ben was when Nate found out that he was Spider-Man, and then he had said, "I can't tell May." When Nate, the best friend, the guy in the chair, Ned, excuse me. When Ned found out that he was Spider-Man, and then he had mentioned, "Oh, with everything that happened with May, I can't tell her this right now." Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think that's the only mention that we had of, or at least quote unquote had of Uncle Ben.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming that that's what it is. You know what I mean? Because I think that most people that watch this movie already pretty much know somewhat at least the past story of Spider-Man.
Mhm.
So they kind of link that in. But then at the same time, I personally feel like this movie was made for a younger audience. Honestly, I think I think that they're tying in Spider-Man more as a teenager. And the other one thing that I did notice also in the beginning of the movie, that when it comes to the bad guys, there's an 8-year gap, because the movie really starts right after Avengers 1, right? And then as soon as they clean up, as soon as the government takes over the cleanup, then all of a sudden you see a skip to 8 years, and it ends up coming after Avengers Age of Ultron. I don't know if you guys noticed that.
But that's not 8 years. What do you mean? I don't.
Well, there was in the movie it said 8 years later. So like I mean it's probably not, but in the movie it said 8 years later. Like when they decided to keep, remember how they were told how they had to turn everything in, and then there was part of it that they decided to keep, and then all of a sudden 8 years later you see this thing where it says 8 years later, and you see Vulture coming in.
Well, you see, here's the thing with that. I think that Ultron cameo that they did just acknowledges that those events happened and that they're aware of it, and it's on the black market as things like that would be. But the 8-year mark, I didn't catch that. So good catch if you caught that. But that 8-year mark can't be true, because we know that the 5 years later in Endgame makes that 2021. They've established that, and this movie certainly didn't take place in 2020.
Nah.
That would be an impossibility according to their own time. So I don't know what that 8 years is referring to. I didn't. I'll take your word.
Because it's basically showing the cleanup in New York, and then he picks up stuff from the cleanup in New York from what's it called? From Avengers 1, and then they just keep it from there. And then all of a sudden, they start Spider-Man. they start Spider-Man fighting in Civil War.
So,
oh no, Civil War.
You know, I'm the comic guy, so I have to address this comment. I'm sorry. Spider-Man Homecoming, more like Spider-Man Come My Eye. Now, I'm not sure that's a punchline, that's a criticism to this movie, or are you really like a sick freak and you have a sick fantasy of Spider-Man coming your eye? If that's the case, you might want to become, short, fat, and young and want to be the guy in the chair, because I think that's the only person that he's never mind. Anyway, go ahead, Vic. I'm sorry.
Is that a thumbs up? That sounds like a rave review. But anyway.
Yo, Chrissy, you stupid.
Let me ask you a question. And Chris, I'm gonna jump in here because I don't know where you're gonna go, but I just have to say this. Vic said that this movie is targeted to a younger audience because Spider-Man's a teenager, and then Chrissy said, "Do we miss certain key plot points like Uncle Ben and everything like that?" This movie does not give an Uncle Ben moment. I mean, it's if you know the backstory, then it's an Uncle Ben illusion, but it's not a moment, right? I don't know that it necessarily needs an Uncle Ben moment because Spider-Man is Marvel, right? Mm-hmm. But let me say that in Civil War, when he's talking to Tony Stark and he starts to tear up, that to me was more poignant than this one. I'll just say that from a personal feeling of how I liked it. His thing to everything going on with Aunt May, if you didn't know the comic backstory, you'd be like, well, what is he talking about? Did she just lose her job? Because we never see her work, right? So we don't know what's going on with that. So I like the one that the illusion that they made in Civil War. With regard to him being a teenager, I think that I like that best because that is who Peter Parker was from the beginning of his inception as a comic book character for much of the history. Well, not much of the history, but for a long part of his history. Hence why Miles Morales started as a teenager. Do you see what I'm saying? So I don't necessarily think I don't think him being a teenager makes this for a younger audience. I think that there are moments in this film that are really dark, and I don't say that disparagingly. I think it suits the plot. And it makes sense for what the tone that they're building, like the seriousness of it. I really enjoyed that, and the fact that he's over his head. Okay, but him being a teenager, I thought that was brilliant because that is who Peter Parker is. Peter Parker is a poor kid from Queens. He doesn't have a lot of money, and he makes do with what he can. And I like the fact that he's quippy in this movie, but I thought that when he should be quippy in the comics, he's quippy when he's fighting.
Uh-oh.
He'll be back. No, he'll be back.
Speaking of quippy.
Yeah, in the comics, I think
he'll be back. He'll be back.
When he's fighting,
I also didn't realize that until now that Peter Parker was Italian.
He is?
No idea. Well, see, because the store owner, when he went to go see the store owner, he said, the store owner said in Spanish, "Hey, listen, man, his aunt is a hot Italian woman." Right, and then Peter Parker responded. He's like in Spanish, like, "Hey, how's your daughter, huh?"
But I don't know. But Peter's really smart, so he could just because remember, later on in the movie, they showed him in like Spanish class, so it could have just been like a foreign language he was taking. I don't know if he's Italian.
Oh no! But the thing is, it wasn't. It's just that the lady, like the woman that plays his aunt is Italian, and they're from an area. Like Peter Parker is from an area at the time where there was a lot of Italians. The other thing that I really, really liked about this movie is that it was very, very Queens. Like there were so many places that I could just spot and I recognized so well in this movie, like Sunnyside and the trains and the stores and everything. Most of it was in Long Island City, even though he's supposed to be billed from Forest Hills. But most of the stuff that they filmed was in Sunnyside and Long Island City and the border of New York. I would actually want to go take a picture in that fire escape that he sat on.
But you know what? I feel like this movie, even more so than the other ones, is more like they tried to make it a point to take him out of New York. Like I know all the other Spider-Mans, he's in New York most of the movie, if not all of the movie. But in this first one, we see him in a trip to DC. So you see him doing all that web slinging and all that acrobatics.
Doesn't work
at the monument and in DC. And in the second movie, he's not in New York that much either. I feel like they purposely did that so kind of differentiate it between the other Spider-Man movies.
That makes a lot of sense. That certainly does. Certainly makes a ton of sense. I think that's if that's the case, I think that was a great idea.
Yeah, I think it was a good idea.
Because like the movie starts in New York, and then he just goes to other places and does other things. So yeah, especially if he's going to be one of the Avengers. So I
But
really.
is he one of the Avengers? Because remember in the beginning of the movie, he was like, I think Happy or Tony said, "No, you're not really an Avenger." Then he told all his friends that he's pretty much an Avenger, or at least the guy in the chair. I like the endearing. He's very endearing in this movie, more so than all the other Spider-Mans. You can kind of you want him to win because he's young and like impressionable, and he's trying his best.
Do we? Huh? Do we want him to win?
What? If you don't, then you're cruel and not.
No,
what did he do to differentiate between him and any other human being on all the 7 billion of them on planet Earth where I want him to win? Because he's stalking this woman that's not interested in him? Is that why?
Because it's not so much that you can you're sorry for her mother, but it's like you can relate to him. You can relate to like being in your teens. You can't relate to being in your teens and having a crush on somebody or being like.
Let me say this. Like Tony Stark.
There's like an echo.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm watching us. Okay.
So he like his mentor, Tony Stark. Both are socially awkward. Okay. He never talks to this girl. He acts like his life sucks. He's living, a great life. He has superhuman strength. He knows one of the wealthiest men on the planet, as far as he knows, right? What is he complaining about? He got a free tech suit. He's not overweight. He's not overweight at all.
Right, he's a teen. I've never seen him say anything like his life is horrible.
Huh?
Well, the teenagers are never satisfied.
No, false. Everybody else in that school was pretty much happy. Even the pouty anemic girl who turned out to be MJ, because I don't know why, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's a weird one.
Was filled with. I've never seen a school like that. What? They were all.
That's Lane. That's Franklin K. Lane.
And when
I think it was just his crew. Like when you're in high school, everybody kind of has like that clique or whatever. So
he looked like she was a killer in hiding. Ooh. They were all losers. I didn't want to be like any of them. None of them. I didn't relate to them. If there was somebody in my high school that looked like that, they would have been bullied. And I'm not saying that bullying is acceptable or warranted for the outcome. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is, back when I was in high school, they would have been talked about. Let me say it that way.
But what's wrong with that? Okay, I don't know about you. Not everybody grew up popular and like a part of the in crowd. But those of us who grew up,
I can attest, James was very popular in high school.
Okay, so those of us who were geeks and nerdy and like not part of the in crowd, we can relate to his group of friends. Like it's
hold up, Chrissy, hold up.
We as in the general.
I don't think Chrissy comes across as the popular girl. Like
I was not.
So you're going to tell me. You are going to tell me that you were in the out crowd. You weren't a part of the in crowd. See, I didn't like people like you because I was bullied in high school, right? So I'm over here and I'm like, what are you saying exactly? All right. I used to be. I feel what James is saying because since I was bullied in high school, I know that this guy who didn't do half the much stuff as I did would have definitely been bullied. The most he got called was Penis Parker.
Yep.
But yeah, you could see he was bullied in the movie. And
by Flash Thompson, was not looking bigger than him, by the way.
That's true.
If Flash Thompson and Peter Parker got into a fist fight, my money is on Peter Parker.
No, but Flash Thompson is just the rich guy.
No, Flash Thompson's supposed to be a bully.
What I think he is.
My daughter can take him.
No, I don't think he's supposed to be a bully. I think he's supposed to be that guy that has a lot of resources and rubs it in everybody else's face.
In the comics, he was a bully.
Yeah, they definitely changed him around.
He was a jock. He was a jock.
He was a jock. All right, so that sucks. They shouldn't have put him that way.
But again, it's part of it changing like the stuff that other movies have done. Like the other movies had like Toby being like beat up by like this big jock guy and
yes.
Wait. Isn't that the guy that's supposed to become Venom?
No, that's Eddie Brock. That's somebody he works with later in the video.
All right, cool.
Maybe it's because I know this character's history that I didn't like this movie. I like the opening when they played the familiar tune. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's all this movie did that was familiar to me. Let me be very open and honest.
You didn't like Beetlejuice?
I did like Beetlejuice. Somebody else didn't like Beetlejuice. That's somebody else. I'm talking about
I
Homecoming.
mean, no, it's just that you have to be of a certain age to enjoy Beetlejuice.
So you're telling me you're the age of a teenager?
I was just talking about the fact that Michael Keaton played in Beetlejuice, and then he played.
No. I'm saying that, like, I mean, if you're an early '80s baby, you might like it. If you like a '90s baby, you might not be into it.
I disagree because.
Well, I don't know if you can disagree because the two people who were born later, we both disliked the movie, so it's the facts. But as far as Spider-Man, I like the fact that they refreshed it. I like it.
We're talking about somebody who goes around wearing Sonic the Hedgehog mask and shirts and stuff like that, and then somebody who sits up here and tells they were supposed to do something, they didn't end up doing it. Don't think I didn't know about that, Chrissy. Let me explain something, okay? You had a spot. You can't sit here and tell me, all right, that one, you're a fan of Captain America, so automatically I already know that you're incorrect in a lot of stuff you're going to say when it comes to cinematics. Mm-hmm. Two, you just sit here and try to defend Peter Parker instead of we can look at him and sympathize with him or empathize in this case.
You can relate to him, like
really,
if you are, if you were not popular in high school.
You know why? Because I grew up broke. That's why. All right. So here's what happened. Okay, that apartment in New York was a lot larger than most apartments that I know in New York. Vic can attest to that. All right. So that part was so that means right there they have a little bit of money. Two, his honest hot. Now,
a little bit.
Granted.
It was the insurance money from Uncle Ben's death. They brought it.
You're reaching. You are reaching. You are reaching further than a sandworm. Now look.
I can't believe for that.
Yes.
That was great. Then you have the world's richest billionaire, almost. Okay, superhero extraordinaire, just randomly showing up at your house, interested in your aunt because your aunt is hot, stuff like that. Gives you a free suit practically that James even alluded to. You're over here. You're wearing your pajamas. Going around. Now you have a free tech suit. You're intelligent as hell. You're able to skip class more than anybody I've ever seen and get out of it for reasons I don't understand. No, I can't relate to this motherfucker. I cannot tell you exactly how much I was bullied in high school. And if I missed any class in high school, I would have a wedgie in the bathroom. So I'm taking this personally, okay? I'm taking this personally.
The kids nowadays.
And I was broke.
No. The kids nowadays.
And I was broke.
I don't think it's. The bullying thing isn't as bad as it used to be. I feel like with all these social media.
I grew up in the '90s. Bullying was horrible.
I know. That's why I feel like it's less so now. But
were bullied to the point of suicide. How is it less now than it was back then?
Well, that could be, snowflake syndrome, or so they call it.
Careful.
But anyway, that's off topic. But what I was saying is, I appreciate the fact that they made these changes. Like I appreciate that they made Spider-Man younger, or to what his age should have been, as opposed to some 30-year-old man playing a high schooler. I also appreciate that he had more of a personality than he was more endearing than Amazing Spider-Man, and he had more personality than Tobey Spider-Man. I think they found like a happy medium. I also appreciate the fact that this movie showed him struggling with his powers in the suit throughout the movie. Like there was no point, there was like no training montage and then suddenly like he's the best at this suit and can defeat everybody. He struggled and learned throughout the whole movie, which I feel like rings more true than.
Well, the main reason why they did that is because Spider-Man came out in 2002. The Amazing Spider-Man came out in 2011. I believe that it would have been a little bit redundant to have it in 2017, do it all over again. So I completely understand the mechanics about why they decided to just go ahead and just go straight from the horn. And I appreciate that. But you still saw him a little bit of learning because he was struggling throughout this whole movie simply because of the fact he had the suit that a rich billionaire gave him that actually had a kill mode. So he was still struggling. He had a hard time. It took him 8 hours to get out of a locked storage unit, even though he had a tech suit. But he's making friends with Data. I'm sorry, the tech suit. So I had to give credit where credit is due. The man is super intelligent. He had a best friend who was a guy in a chair, and that he made the guy in a chair famous. So
you really like Star Trek, don't you?
I'm a huge Trekkie. Huge Trekkie. Star Trek shapes everything, including.
Yeah, I noticed how you called the thing Data. Like, yeah.
Because she was talking to a computer and acting like it was human. It was Data.
But also about this particular Spider-Man, I like how in the beginning of the movie that they showed him like doing like a video blog type thing, recording his experiences, because that's kind of like something like a modern day similarity to what he was doing in the comics and stuff like that. Also feel like they in this movie they showed him more, even though they didn't really show him in class, but they showed that he was intelligent, like the fact that he could he was on like this debate team or math leagues or whatever the heck it was, and he was
put that comment back up.
Huh?
Put that comment back up. I think Toby played a good Peter Parker. Andrew Garfield played a better Spider-Man. Tom Holland played the role the best with both Parker and Spidey.
Correct. I agree. That
has come from which Mr. Jeffrey Storm.
But yeah, they showed more of his personality. They showed more of his intelligence as opposed to, you know, the first Spider-Man. I don't really remember him being like super intelligent, or at least him showing that he was super intelligent, as opposed to him just being a geek.
Tobey Maguire was the first scene practically with Tobey Maguire. They were inside of a history museum where he was showing off constantly. So they definitely did show that.
So like one scene, they have that scene in like one other when you see him trying to put together the Spider.
No,
other than that, nothing.
No.
What's going on, Ricky?
What's up, Ricky?
Toby. Okay, let me. Okay, so I'm gonna put this back up here. I disagree with this.
Get your thoughts together. You stuttered like 4 times. It's like I'm the technician.
I'm stuttering because I can't believe what's being said. So, Tobey Maguire, right? Even though he was a lot older, they casted him whatever. I don't care about that.
And dry, right? And like just
because you like Tom Holland doesn't make Tobey Maguire mad, okay? Don't make
he had no personality.
Here's what I'm saying. Just like Chris Evans, you like Chris Evans, so you like Captain America. Even
I don't.
Just said that he was a war criminal. I like that they said that. If we're gonna give thumbs up to this movie, I like that they call Captain America a war criminal because that's what he is. Okay, but anyway. Tobey Maguire throughout that movie, he played even in Venom when he thought that he was being cool in the third one, he was actually being a doofus because that's who he is. He can't help but be who he is, right? So everybody else in that school, whether they were popular or not, we don't know. They were more popular than Peter Parker because that is how it should be. That is who he is in the comics. It can't be that we can just do whatever we want to do because it's based on something, right? It's based on the comics. This is because Marvel created it. It's Marvel's Spider-Man. In Marvel's Spider-Man, the only thing that Tobey Maguire couldn't do was make himself a teenager again, right? But everybody
have a personality.
Huh?
And have a personality.
He's not supposed to have he's a geek.
Peter Parker has a personality. He's not like
they tried to have the personality with Amazing Spider-Man. It did not work. You know why?
No. They tried to have a different personality.
They tried to have a personality. Man, I was bullied in high school because, as you can tell, I'm traumatized by high school because I was bullied every day. Matter of fact, I think James is one of the people that bullied me a few times.
No, don't even say that. Don't even.
You bullied me in freshman.
The way you bullied me in freshman year. Like that.
Actually, I've given you a lot of credit, Chris, for you being one of the people who talked to me because I didn't grow up in Catholic school. So don't say that I bullied you.
I did grow up in Catholic school. That is true. Okay. But there's one thing I do know. I was bullied by you. In 2000, oh man, I said 2000. Wow, I'm getting old. 1997 is when we were freshmen in high school. And oh my God, I'm depressed.
Yeah, I did not bully Chris. My Wi-Fi went out on me as a sucker, just like this movie. But I did not bully Chris. I said that Chris has been one of the consistent friends that I've known throughout my life. I said that before he knows that I told him that. So he's being an ass right now, much like he was. So let's just here you go.
In high school, no, we're going to take a commercial break. We'll be back to break down a little bit more of Spider-Man. And actually, I'm going to tell you a challenge that we're going to have coming up right after these 2 brief messages.
Way to bargain, Mars. I love that car more than anything that I have.
Dad, what about us?
You need a Q-tip?
Do you want to show your love for the UPR universe? Or do you just want to show your love for Yep, I Like Wrestling? If you want to support these guys, go to ProWrestlingTees.com where you can get shirt and a lot of other merch.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Unpopular Reviews. The executive consultant, see disappear, the market, and the man is the man in the chair down there, as well as Ramey, however you want to pronounce it. Also
No man
here,
in the chair.
yeah, there's no man in the chair. Consultant, see disappear, the market, and the man is the chair down there, as well as Ramey. All right. Anyway, so just one time I didn't want to hear my voice, but yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are right back. We're here to talk about Spider-Man. We go hear some of these comments. Vix, are you at home because he cares so much about you? Chris, you got bullied. Wow, I thought you would have been friends with everyone. I did not get bullied. I'm actually joking. I was actually somewhat a bully in high school, depending on who you ask. Vic is in Avengers Tower. Not physical though. I was not a physical bully, but I might have made a few people cry. LOL, fair enough. He's also invisible. Okay, great. Welcome back, Mark. Always ready to go. Look at him. Look at him. There we go. Spider-Man. So we have not reviewed Spider-Man 2002, Spider-Man 2 2004, Spider-Man 3 2007. Nor did we review the Amazing Spider-Man from 2011 or the Amazing Spider-Man 2 from 2014. When we do, we are going to have a review of who is the best Spider-Man. We're actually going to do the same thing with Batman Company as well. But for Spider-Man, it's going to be the first one where we're going to talk about who's the best Spider-Man between Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and one Tom Holland. I'm really interested in hearing the arguments because each person here probably is going to pick a different Spider-Man, and they're going to present why their Spider-Man was the best cinematic Spider-Man version. I'm looking forward to hearing this. Actually, it might be a little tough because it's going to be hard to find somebody who's going to say Andrew Garfield.
Yeah. Maybe we should.
Hold on, Joseph. Back to Spider-Man, though. Let's talk about something else. Instead of talking about focusing on Peter Parker and Spider-Man, let's talk about what I think this movie did right. And let's talk about what I think the highlight in this movie is. And that actually does go to the actor who played Beetlejuice, and that is Michael Keaton's Vulture. Let me tell you something right now. When Vulture was announced as the main villain of this movie, I was skeptical. I was not happy at all because I've never been a fan of Vulture. I think he's a very boring villain. Spider-Man has arguably the best rogues gallery in the Marvel universe. I won't say comic book superhero because that goes to Batman. I always will go to Batman for me. But in Marvel, it is definitely Spider-Man. And I felt like even though they used a lot of villains, there's so many more villains they can use than Vulture. But I was intrigued.
I disagree.
That's fine. You can tell me why you're on drugs for a minute. You can tell me why you're on drugs for a minute. Let me finish my statement. My statement is I disagree that was Michael Keaton. However, I'm sorry, I disagree with Vulture, but I started hopping on board a little bit when it was Michael Keaton that was announced. And boy, did he blow away the best Marvel villain up to that date, in my opinion. Vic, take it away.
I thought that the character of Vulture was a good starting point because if there's one thing that I see with this iteration of Spider-Man is that this is definitely a stepping stone for something long term. When we get into the next Spider-Man movie, we'll elaborate a little bit more on that. But this is a stepping stone for something long term. I think that Spider-Man is going to be fighting a whole bunch of people over the years, and to start with Vulture, I think it's a good one. I definitely do because it's one of the least characters of the Sinister Six that literally has the most power. Like, they could have easily started with the Hobgoblin or something like that.
Hobgoblin would have been smarter.
And all of that. You know what I mean? But it would be a repeat of the past.
Hobgoblin's never been in the movies.
I mean the Green Goblin, but it's the
two totally different villains.
Yeah, but linked by the same character. Linked by the same Osborn. They're both Osborn.
Hobgoblin is not Osborn. Who told you that?
What are you talking about? The Green Goblin is the original, and then Hobgoblin is the second one.
No, the Green Goblin, many people have the moniker. It doesn't make them a different person. The Hobgoblin is somebody different.
Correct.
That was his son.
No, it was not.
No.
The son ended up being another version of the Green Goblin, but he was not Hobgoblin.
Well, that was in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, right? The son took over the whole.
Yeah, he became Green Goblin again.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he became Green Goblin. The Sun took over. They totally ignored Norma. Look, there's a lot of things wrong with Amazing Spider-Man. It's not pre-recorded, it's live. If that doesn't answer your question, man, Bub. Who's in the Sinister Six? I'll tell you that in a second. I'll let James tell you that in a second. But no,
I mean, you know what though? But even though we went off into a tangent, I think I enjoyed the fact that they used the Vulture in this one. And
because Michael Keaton played him. And ironically, Craven the Hunter was at the end.
And Michael Keaton did it very, very well. I really, really enjoyed his and the way that they set it up, and also the fact that he was the girl's dad.
Oh,
and
yeah,
you didn't see that till like way later in the movie. Because then
I love that scene because I did not see that coming.
Nobody did.
I should have seen it. It should have been clues and hints. But when he opened the door, I was like, "Oh shit!"
Yep. What a twist!
Talk about that scene? Can we talk about that scene?
Yeah, let's play it.
So I agree with Chris that the thing that made this movie tolerable and wanted me to keep waiting for the next scene was Michael Keaton. I thought that he was brilliant. I don't know what another actor could have brought to the Vulture role. I don't know if that was in the script, but I thought he brought the intensity. I thought he brought the threat. And I actually like the fact that the Vulture did have a code. For instance, and he said several times that I could have killed you outright. You know, and clearly I can hear from your voice that you're a kid or young from some point. You know what I mean? And maybe, and just like he says to him, you and I, we come from the same world. You think just because you're working with the, Tony Stark and everybody like that you're part of them? You're not. You're not on their level. You're not in their league. You don't have their money. And he's absolutely right.
You sound much like Falcone when you quoted that just now. A little bit Falcone came out, bro.
No, that wasn't intentional. But
you're not.
You know
what? Shout out, real quick. Shout out to May for going on YouTube to learn how to play time. Sorry.
So Michael, so I love what Michael Keaton brought to it, and that scene when Peter Parker goes to pick up, I can't remember the girl's name, but not MJ is what I'm going to call her, right? When he goes to pick up not MJ, and he sees the guy there. Now you would think, he's told Ned, his girlfriend, who can't keep his mouth shut through the whole movie, hey, my secret's very important. I don't want to hurt Aunt May and the people that I care about, like you and these other people, the anemic girl. So I don't want anybody to know. So the minute he realizes, hey, this is a psychopath and I need to play this cool, what does he do? He acts like he should be acting in school all the time. Frozen, stuck. He doesn't do anything to help him. Then when he gets in the vehicle and the guy is like, hey, your voice sounds familiar. Because he's so smart, does he come up with, well, I do the video recording for the school or whatever like that. Does he come up with some lie or whatever like that? Does he tell, hey, girl, shut the hell up. You're talking too much. He might figure out who I am. He doesn't use his intelligence at all. He just goes like this and stares like he's on a
years old.
Go ahead. Defend him.
Hold on, before you defend him, let me answer this question. The Sinister Six contain a Dr. Octopus, Craven the Hunter, Mysterio, Sandman, Scorpio, and Vulture. That's just answer the question. Go ahead, Chrissy.
But I'm saying we can't expect him to be 007 like a super spy. Black Widow knows exactly what to do in every situation.
Okay, all right. I was going to say I'm a James Bond guy.
He's a 15-year-old.
They established through the whole movie. They say it. They never show it that he's so smart. In fact, he's
book smart. He's not necessarily situationally smart or
anchor to the team for what's academic. Do they not? They say that, right? In fact, the girl he has
for an academic team. He needs you.
But at the same time, that could also be book smart, James.
No.
I'll give Chris that.
It's book smarts, yes, right? He lives in Queens. Granted, he lives in a great apartment in Queens, right? But he fights crime. So that tells
not very well.
No. We're not going to.
No, he does not. No, he does not fight it very well. I'll give Chrissy that too.
From bicycles that weren't even stolen.
You're not going to let me make my point. My point is this: he fights crime on a daily basis. He's not invulnerable, and he's already. By the time that scene happens, that's already been half a year or a full year that he's been fighting crime. As far as we know, he has to think on his feet, right? So even if you're a rookie cop or a cop that's been a cop for a full year, you're telling me you can't think on your feet. When you realize you come into a dangerous situation, he freezes like he's never been in a rodeo. That makes zero sense based on what they show. We've seen him fight trained killers and assassins in Civil War. We've seen him go a full year in this movie. That's the truth.
Okay, but through that year,
that's not me.
what crimes was he fighting? He was
nitpicking. That's what
Well,
they
the
showed in
bank.
the movie.
He thought on
no,
his
no, no.
feet
I'm
at
going
the
to say it's a
bank.
little nitpicky because
Thank
again,
you.
they
Just
showed that.
Please say it again.
They
Please say it again.
showed that he was not good at fighting crime.
Vic,
Oh,
what did they know? I didn't say he had to have the best.
They
view.
showed that he was thinking on his feet at the bank robbery.
He said,
especially when they held him up with the gun, and then he went like this, and then he pulled the gun from behind.
She's absolutely right. She's absolutely right. I have to agree with Christy on this one. I have to back Christy up on this.
Chris and Christy, you walk into a situation and you see Jeffrey Dahmer, right? And you know, I'm assuming who Jeffrey Dahmer is. You recognize him, or Hannibal Lecter, whoever you want to say. You know him. He doesn't know who you are, but you know in disguise you've been fighting him, right?
Okay.
You've been fighting the Joker, and he has heard your voice because you don't disguise your voice. Do you stand there and freeze?
As a 15-year-old,
no,
who did not expect. No. Let me answer. Let me answer.
Do I stand there and freeze? Yes, I stand there and freeze because now I'm getting overwhelmed. I went in there and I tried to do something, right? So we're talking about when he went to the house, right?
Yes, his crime.
Let Chris talk. Let Chris talk. Okay. So
go ahead and defend this.
So all right, I'm about to defend him. Can I defend? You know I'm going to defend him, all right? He's a 15-year-old boy. He has his hormones running. He went over there. He's like, I'm about to give me some chocolate pussy. All right, so he goes in there. He's ringing the doorbell. Right? All of a sudden, he had no understanding. This older Caucasian man opens up the door, right?
Right, he probably thought he was at the wrong house.
Right, but he thought he was going to get a Bad Boys 2 treatment, and instead he didn't get a Bad Boys 2 treatment. Right? So that's why he froze up. He saw the face of his fear. All right? And he doesn't understand it. He doesn't understand his fear. Look at James. Look at him over there. Look at him over there.
No,
so when he's
thinking,
how can I protect myself against the vulture?
He wasn't thinking anything.
No, he was thinking. Like I said, he's not an experienced crime fighter.
He was high as Chrissy. He was high as shit, and you know it. And here's another proof that here's another spoiler alert.
Okay.
Not from the second movie, please.
Even in the second movie, right? When he meets Mysterio, who he does not know.
Oh, here we go. You about to say it again?
Spoiler alert!
No, Mysterio. He
Spoiler.
just met Mysterio, who is as you say, he's a 15-year-old. He just met a grown man who just told him, "I don't come from your Earth. I don't come from New York. I don't even come from your borough. I come from another dimension." That's what he just heard, right? And what does he say? Okay, maybe that's true because I've seen some funky shit, right? But then he says, hey, these glasses, which are basically Earth security, I'm going to give them to you, Mysterio, because you fight water monsters. Now, you tell me, what 15-year-old who just met somebody is going to be that dumb? Oh, wait, I know, the handsome ones, the cute ones, right? So Captain America gets to do whatever he wants to do because he's handsome, right? That's not how it works.
You know what I call it? Pretty privilege. That's what I call
it. Are we done?
I mean, but here's the thing, though.
There's always a thing.
Prior to that scene, we have to remember that he took a break from all the crime fighting stuff.
Wait.
No, he did. No, but wait a minute. Let me finish. James
is ready to go off on a rant.
Can I cross the finish line?
Wait a minute.
Can I cross the finish line?
Delete.
Are we talking about spoilers still or not?
I don't know what we're talking about right now.
Wait. I can't hear him.
All right.
I can't hear him.
Spider-Man in Civil War, Tony says, wow, you're really good. You caught that car. That car was going what, like 45 miles an hour? He caught that car and made sure nobody was hurt. That means he was thinking on his feet. He knows physics. He's the one who created his own webbing. Did you create that?
That's a physical reaction. He had a physical, like if you're saying why didn't he fight the guy right then and there, that's one thing. But saying how come he didn't disguise his voice?
They said that he created his own webbing. So he knew that he needed webbing. He knew that it would have to have a certain tensile strength. He knew that he had to catch that car when he was in pajamas, right? So I'm saying if he can think all of that, and he has been crime fighting, we don't know how long he's been crime fighting, but clearly he's been doing it long enough to put up YouTube videos, right? I'm not even saying he was dumb to put up YouTube videos because I agree with you, Chrissy. That's what this younger generation does. They record everything because they want to get caught, right? So I'm not even saying that because that's true to form. What I am
we hear unpopular reviews, have no problem with our younger community, and we love every one of y'all that's watching.
You got to think on your feet. That made no sense to me. There was no point in this movie where I said to myself, gee, he seems like an intelligent person. He didn't. And you can't
see right there. He doesn't look like intelligent wearing that tuxedo.
But you know what though? I feel like that was warranted, because the thing is, all right, look. To be honest with you, like, okay, how many 15-year-olds?
Look at that big goat. Tony made that.
But look about it. Think about it. How many 15-year-olds actually know the true what the world is like? Every 18-year-old thinks they know everything and they're ready for the world.
He wanted to lose his virginity.
By the time let me finish. By the time they hit 24, 25, they still realize they got a lot to learn. Right, so this kid is 15. But wait, let me finish. Right, so now, but let me just ask you this: do you think he would have acted the same way if Liz wasn't in the car? Because mind you, she didn't know he was Spider-Man. She's the girl that he likes. She's the girl that makes him weak. So he's gonna act all different. As soon as he got away from her, he put on the suit, he ran, and then and now he's doing all of this and fighting.
This is the question for me to answer.
Well, no. If Liz wasn't in the car, if he would have acted the same way, do you think he would act the same way if Liz wasn't in the car?
I'm showing you the scene in the movie when Liz gets out the car. She says to Peter Parker, "Don't let him scare you or intimidate you." Something to that end, right? Mm-hmm. The Vulture continues to punk Peter Parker, so much so that he looks like he's about to cry.
James, do you know why he was able to do that?
No, wait, because he's Michael Keaton. He's the fucking best.
That's right. He knew where I was going. He's Batman. He's Batman. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and end this right now. We're going to come back. We're going to give our thumbs up and thumbs down. First, though, we're going to take another commercial break, and we're going to show you the 2 movies we're going to review next week right here on Unpopular Review.
He was attended by devoted servants.
Do you think perhaps just once I might use the bathroom by myself?
Notes to music, sir.
Wipers!
Teach me.
Gentlemen, Unpopular Review, the executive consultant, See the Superior, Mark and Raimi, James, the names that Spider Jack calls him. I like that name, so we're going to stick with it. However, please make sure that you like, love, and share this video to all of your timelines and groups so we can get bigger and better for all of you all. This has been a very entertaining episode as we talk about apparently a very controversial Spider-Man Homecoming from 2017, and now we're going to go ahead with our thumbs up and thumbs down for this movie and See the Superior. As always, ladies first.
All right. So for me, I have really never been a big Spider-Man fan. Like he wasn't the superhero that I liked the most. I remember he had a cartoon back in the day, and I didn't really like that cartoon much. I remember liking X-Men more than that cartoon. But and honestly, I did not enjoy. Well, let me not spoil any future reviews.
Oh man,
this is the movie that I could actually kind of root for Spider-Man. I enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed like some of the and specifically I enjoyed the back characters. Like I feel like they had really good moments, especially like everyone on his like little academic team, the friend Ned, I think he was awesome. And I also like that they had an actor who was of age. I think he was like 18 or something when this movie was like 18 or 19. So he was still a teenager playing a teenager. I can appreciate that. I think that was something that they did that was smart. And also I do enjoy Tony in this movie. I think his appearances are short, but they're great and they add a lot to the movie for me. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Yay, thumbs up.
I had to cover it. I didn't want anybody to see my face as you insult Spider-Man animated series, was one of the greatest cartoons from the 90s. Mark Victor Rodriguez, you gave it a thumbs up, right, C?
Yes.
All right, Mark Victor Rodriguez, up to you. Spider-Man Homecoming, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. And I also wanted to say I appreciate the fact that Captain America made a little cameo in there as well.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, and the end credits. The
I
end
don't know why they're
credits
doing
is
it.
really
What, you know what the funny
Like
thing
that
is? I don't even know why they're showing him. He's supposed to be like a fugitive, but whatever.
But they
All right,
mentioned that in the movie.
I know they did. I know they did. It didn't make any sense.
I
It
mean,
didn't
no,
make-
but actually no. It made a lot of sense. It made a ton of
It's
sense.
a public school. They aren't
No, here's
funded
the
well.
thing.
They keep old
No,
stuff and they still.
there were
when you say that, I can believe it.
There were state guidelines. The coach said that there were state guidelines, and when it comes to the Board of Ed, if it's not broke, they don't fix it. So
Yep.
they're not going to spend any more money on changing that video. They're gonna, as long as it's relaying the message, regardless of what's going on with the guy.
You know who
the
they
Board
should have
of Ed
got?
is not going to change.
They
That.
should have got the friendly neighborhood
being
Spider-Man.
in New York City. The New York City Board of Ed is going to leave it exactly the same. But anyway,
That's why they're in trouble now. Mark, what did you like about this
ain't in
movie?
trouble. What you talking about? We got rotating days and virtual things. Like we got things moving, bro. Moving like Doctor Strange, you heard? We good. But anyway, this movie was good. Clearly, as you can see, as you can hear from what Chrissy just said, it was made for children. So,
And y'all gave it a thumbs up. So what does that say?
I'm gonna give it a thumbs up for several reasons. I mean, honestly, I'm gonna just say it like this. This is the setup. This is the setup for the future Iron Man. Point blank, period. Because I know that, I love this movie. I can't wait till we get like Spider-Man 5, and then we start to see what really happens. And the thing that I liked the most was a little drone that came out of his chest, just like Falcon has, and I think War Machine has. That shit was really cool. So I really like the tech that comes with this Spider-Man because we never had that before.
All right. 2 thumbs up. James Ananias, Raimi, Rami. Vic loves all Marvel movies according to Ricky J. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Why not?
Let me just show this one more time. Firstly, let me just salute two of my co-hosts. I want to salute Vic, the Mark setup for the next Marvel movie, and Chrissy, Pretty Boy Defender. They always come with they always come with the details and plot points of the movie to make their case, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I'm being facetious. Here's the point, right? Again, as I say, I don't care if there's an old Spider-Man in the 70s and he has the rope and he's swinging through literally with the rope around the thing. I've never watched that because it didn't catch my interest. But let's say he had the rope in this one, right? But he captured the spirit of who Peter Parker and Spider-Man was. I would still say, hey, he was a great depiction of that. I can't say that in this movie, not because I don't like Tom Holland. I don't know Tom Holland. In that sense, I don't care about Tom Holland. I don't know Tobey Maguire and I don't know Andrew Garfield. I don't know them personally. It's nothing against them. It's based purely on what I see and based purely on what this film showed of Peter Parker, right? I did not envy him. I didn't even want to be him, even though he got the spider suit. Maybe, again, if I was a child, I would have thought that was amazing, right? As an adult, I question why this adult sociopath is giving this kid a lethal weapon, which clearly it says throughout several times in this movie, right? The person who I identified with was the Vulture because he made cogent points. He was not just a killer to kill. He wanted to stay low-key. He was intelligent. And actually, he was able to go under the radar until Peter Parker, not to sound like Scooby-Doo, kept messing about and stumbled onto it. Right, he was able to, and the smartest man in the world, who for some reason was in India for tax reasons, right, for this film's production, right, he never caught on to that. Now everybody's the Avengers are no more except for the C team now, and he's not even watching what's going on because he's just gallivanting about while Potts is running his corporation. Okay, Happy Hogan is pissed off with this kid for no reason, but in the next one he wants to bang his aunt. Make sense. Okay, so who did this movie star? The Vulture. And I'll just say this in closing, and I'll give my review, my thumbs up or thumbs down. The Dark Knight, they call it a Joker movie, right? But here's the thing: Bruce Wayne and Batman showed up in that movie, right? It may have been primarily not even primarily focused, but led and directed by the Joker, right? But Bruce Wayne and Batman showed up, and he was tested. Each of them was tested in their own way. How was Peter Parker tested in this movie? How did he grow?
He had to be the Spider-Man without the suit.
No, he lost the suit.
You prove my point.
Because Iron Man said, listen, if you're nothing with your suit, you don't deserve it.
Respectfully, you're not even hearing what you're saying. Okay? How did he test himself? How did he prove himself? What did he do to warrant that, hey, you know what? I'm going to invite this child, as Chrissy keeps saying, to join a team who constantly puts themselves in life-threatening situations.
But that's nothing against Spider-Man. That's against Tony. I don't understand how
it's about the movie. This is my review for Spider-Man Homecoming. I moved on from Peter Parker.
But that happened in Civil War.
And what did I say in Civil War? I'm consistent, right? Again, this is not about fanboyism. This is about critique of this movie. And this movie, what is it doing? Again, it seems like, to Vic's point, and he may be right, it's all over the place except for the Vulture, who was consistent.
Oh.
All right. Well, while he comes back, I just want to say this one thing. The Vulture, and a lot of people might not have noticed this, but the Vulture is a result of Tony Stark's action. And the reason I say that is because Tony Stark is the one who created a contract with the government to clean up all of the stuff, and basically took Vulture's job away and took away his entire livelihood, to the point where he had no choice but to keep the alien stuff and then become the Vulture.
Yeah, that's what made him relatable. He was a good villain in that aspect.
Yeah, because in the beginning he wasn't a villain. He had a business, and he was doing the cleanup, and he had a city contract. But then as soon as he lost that city contract, because Tony was basically making money on the cleanup, then he felt screwed over and became the Vulture.
Yeah.
James, thumbs up or thumbs down?
It's a thumbs down, but I thank Vic for agreeing with me about Vulture.
Thumbs down.
All right, 2 thumbs up and a thumbs down. Let's talk about some mechanics for this movie. This movie cost roughly $200 million to make. It made $880 million worldwide. 369 roughly of it came from the United States. 7.4 out of 10 on this. Is this the best Spider-Man movie of all time? Hell to the no.
No.
Were there a lot of aspects about this movie I like? Yes, Aunt May actually was entertaining, even though I prefer older May. That's just me. I think you feel sorry for her a little bit more. It kind of draws you in emotionally.
Okay.
If I did not mention Vulture, I do like the Vulture because he made this movie for me. I was not a fan of the Zendaya's character. I was a fan of, what's his name, Nick, whatever the hell his name was. I did like him. I did not like Flash Thompson. I also did not like Shocker. Shocker was never going to be a huge villain in any movie. However, he needed a little bit more respect, I think, than he got in this movie. Hey, let's have him have a scene. Let's kill him. Let's have him have another scene. Let's get his ass whooped real quick. So I can't respect that. Tony Stark in this movie actually was not bad, and I thought he was going to monopolize the movie. But just because he does not monopolize physically the airtime does not mean he does not monopolize this movie. And one thing that people can say the Marvel Cinematic Universe does very well, and one thing I will say they do very well, is they have so many stars portraying so many characters. In Avengers, the first one and the third one, they do it very well, trying to even it out as much as possible. However, they have one thing, and I don't want to go into the next movie and spoil it, but even in death, I am the hero. And it just seems like Marvel always centers around Tony Stark, and that gets kind of annoying to me. Ultron was not created by Iron Man, but it was created by Ant-Man, and they actually were able to get Ant-Man, but they decided to do Iron Man. Spider-Man had to be introduced pretty much by killing Uncle Ben and having Tony be the new uncle, and that made no sense to me whatsoever. So that, in retrospect, I do not like. Let's go ahead and not have Tony have everything involved. Avengers 1, Tony was the main focus, even though they tried to have everybody else. Avengers 2, Ultron, like I said, was created by Tony, so he became the main focus. But I ain't going to talk about Avengers Endgame and stuff like that. So there's a lot about this movie I dislike because of that. My personal feelings aside of who's the best Peter Parker, my personal feelings aside of who's the best Spider-Man, though, I will say, if you get to the basics of this movie, did I enjoy this movie? The answer is yes. So if you ask me if I give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, this movie gets a thumbs up for me. I enjoyed this movie completely from head to toe, especially at the disasters known as Amazing Spider-Man 1 and Amazing Spider-Man 2, and to a certain extent, Spider-Man 3. So I have to give this movie a thumbs up. I still did enjoy it. However, if you replace Michael Keaton's character I'm sorry, the actor, not the character, with anybody else, I'm not sure this movie would have worked as well. So if you want to talk about somebody who saves this movie, it's him. Somebody mentioned Kraven the Hunter. Never was a fan of Kraven the Hunter either, just like Vulture. He was at the end of this movie, though. Stupid wise, but he was at the end of this movie. So that is my review. 3 thumbs up, 1 thumbs down for Spider-Man Homecoming. Ladies and gentlemen, what did you think of Spider-Man Homecoming? If you're watching us live, or you're watching us back, or you're listening us to our podcast, which I say that is I'm going to release it on podcast this week, and I'm not. But if you're listening to us on our podcast, go ahead and leave a comment, explain why you like this movie or why you did not like this movie. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching us here. Do we have any final thoughts from Vic, James, or Chrissy?
I predict a return of the Vulture. Clearly, you can see that by the way this movie ends. They're going to Oregon. And, I predict at some point the Vulture shall return. So we shall see.
Setup.
We shall see. I mean, no, this movie was a setup for a whole bunch of other movies.
You're right. He is in Morbius.
Yeah.
Don't get me started. I ran on that. Morbius did not need his own movie. That was stupid. All right. Venom, I understand. Morbius.
I mean, you know what though? But I get it. You know why? Because anybody that saw the animated series remembers that Morbius took up a ton of airtime.
He had his own 2 special episodes, and he came back once or twice more, but he didn't take up a ton of airtime.
Morbius
scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Hold up. Wasn't Morbius like in love? Didn't he fall in love with the black cat lady?
Felicia Hardy. I don't care who he fell in love with. He doesn't need his own.
And this was like a big thing, bro. Like that. We got to watch the show again.
He bored me to tears then, too. I don't like the character of Morbius. He's not that good.
It's corny. It's a corny character. It's just that like it's got a big following. That's the thing.
It doesn't. I don't know too many people. I never really have a conversation. You know what? James and I talk about everything, comic books and movies and stuff like that. I don't remember James. Correct me if I'm wrong. Have we ever sat and talked about? No, we haven't.
You're not like. Here's the thing. Talk to somebody that's like all gothic-y and likes the black.
So wait a minute. Is it a comic or is it a comic? Do I gotta go to Hot Topic or something like that?
Yes, the Hot Topic people. The Hot Topic people. The people that have like a bunch of like 10 earrings and like
Here's how I know you're wrong. Because more people talk about Addams Family, which is a gothic comedy.
Those people do.
Right
away. I got to get the plugs. We'll talk about this later. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching us. Please join us on Monday, immediately after Monday Night Raw. If you're a wrestling fan, where Katrina Storm and myself this Monday, along with one other person I haven't decided yet, we'll be on to talk everything Monday Night Raw on Tuesday. We have a big episode for all of you, ladies and gentlemen. It's called Battle Feud, where we're going to have Family Feud Wrestling Edition, as well as 2K19's tournament is finally starting up, as well as the promo battle between the semifinals between Anthony Chobot as well as our very own Ricky J. Pate, the heel. And we're just going to show you 2 promos leading up into this.
So, Anthony, the date of the Battle of the Promos, the Great War, has been set. The month of July, 1 and 4. The date will be wonderful, delightful. The date, all my friends, Vanguard 1. God, and Sino Benjamin gather around to watch me delete you. Go on to the finals and win the entire thing, as you will fade away and classify yourself as obsolete. Ricky, you, this Tuesday, Ricky, you will be deleted, and Ricky,
you are gonna be decimated, and I will go on to the UPR finals. I am the webtastic, charismatic, tromorific Red Guardian, and you are gonna be my victim. You, Ricky, will be deleted. What you gonna do when the Red Guardian come out on you? Ha 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 ha.
Anthony versus Ricky. That's Tuesday on your UPR station, and of course on Wednesday immediately after NXT. I didn't upload the graphic, but AEW NXT version, which is going to be the market, the technician Victor Rodriguez. Thursday at time specified, I don't know yet. We'll be right back here to discuss Coming to America, which is a very, very famous and popular movie that this is going to surprise a lot of people. I have never seen completely, so I'll be interested in watching this movie coming up. And then, of course, on Friday, unpopular reviews, SmackDown edition. I'm very serious with Bad Guy Jack or Bad Guy Champ, as well as the Insider Dylan Kaplan. And then next Saturday, we'll be back here to talk about this movie, Dr. Strange.
Yes. Yes.
Listen, I gotta apologize for something really, and I wanted to do this on air. Listen, I think I've been too hard on this movie. Spider-Man, they did get a lot of things right. One thing I just have to say, I loved he was scared of heights, even though he lives in New York City, and they make a point that he needs high things to swing from. So I just want to say I love that he was scared of heights, and also I love that he left his clothing on behind dumpsters in New York City where they would smell like shit and rats and everything, instead of leaving them high on the buildings that he can easily climb up. So I love that fact, Chrissy. You're right.
He's 15.
Credit due. Okay, credit due.
15-year-olds stink anyway.
15.
No, they don't smell like shit. That's not a normal thing.
And mind
That's
you,
not a normal thing. Let's get it straight.
Mind you, but here's the thing: it smelled like shit.
Here's the thing. It's a setup.
And he got
Spider-Man
robbed.
3, because in Spider-Man 3 he fights the shit monster, and he needs to blend in. That's the setup, right, Vic?
Even I made
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
All right, guys, thanks for watching.
No, and Agent Peggy Carter. No, because Peggy Carter, right?
Peggy Carter's gonna help him.
This is Thursday.
Set up.
This is Thursday. Chrissy gave us to go home. See you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good one.